All right, happy Monday, a rainy Monday here. Thank y'all for being here. Recap Towson quickly. I just want to talk about our players of the week. Special teams player of the week was Hershey McLaurin. Played 9 plays on special teams, had 4 tackles. After the opening kickoff, he was the guy that really stood out on our kickoff unit for the rest of the day. Defense player of the week. He only played in the first half, played 15 plays, but he had a sack, a tackle for a loss, and had a tip pass, and he's played at a high level for 3 weeks. That's Jordan Jefferson. Offense player of the week was Tony Mathis. He had 17 carries, 104 yards, played his best game of the season. Offensive lineman of the week was Zach Frazier, played 56 plays, grade out 96%, had the highest production points. Doug Nestor played really well too. He was a close second there. We give out an award. We call it the Blue Collar Award, but it goes to a guy that maybe doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but plays really well. And we gave that, or we didn't give it. He earned it. Brian Palinde. He starts on 3 special teams for us, and he's done a great job blocking in the run game for us. Scout team players of the week last week, and these were kind of collective through the first 3 weeks. On offense, it was quarterback Jake Robbins. He's a great teammate and does a really good job kind of leading that scout offensive group. On defense, it was Riley Collins, who's a guy that we're excited about. He got in. I think he played double-digit plays in the game and really performed well, and I think he's somebody that can help us special teams-wise and maybe toward the end of the year on defense. And then on special teams, it was Keaton Thomas, first-year player who's done a nice job, he's going to have a chance to be a next kind of guy that's walk-ons that came in and played a bunch of special teams. And then last but not least, we always give a sideline award for juice, and that was C.J. Cole. Did a great job for us. Also started on our punt return unit. So those are the players of the week. Moving on, Virginia Tech, new staff under Coach Pry. If you look at kind of throughout, whether it's Coach Rudolph or Coach Holt, who does the special teams, all up and down their offense and defense staff, they've had a lot of success throughout their careers. They play hard. I think the thing that really jumps out to you when you turn on their film of their first 3 games is, even in the loss at ODU and then in the last 2 games that they've won, is, man, they play really, really hard and they're physical. Coach Pry has a defensive background, and you can see that the team's kind of buying into his mentality, and they're playing really hard. Kind of talk about in each phase. Defensively, they're multiple. They like to pressure. They're really good on the D line. Got 2 defensive ends that can really speed rush, fast off the edge, athletic at D tackle. They play 4 in there, and I think they're all quality players. Their Mike linebacker, number 4, is playing at a high level, and really one of the most improved football players I've seen this year comparing to last year. You can tell he's really spending a lot of time studying. He's got really good ball get off. He's playing off running backs and tight ends, doing a really nice job, making a lot of plays for them. And then their boundary safety, Peoples, I think he's one of the better tacklers we'll face all year. He's really good in the run and the pass game. Offensively, they want to find ways to run the football, and I think that's who they want to be. Physical, they're well coached, do a really nice job in the run game. Multiple tight ends and multiple running backs are going to play. The running back, it's a really nice stable. Kind of reminds me of the Kansas room. They've got 3 or 4 guys that can play, can give 2, 3 tight end sets. The converted quarterback, number 4. He's played some Wildcat quarterback this year too. He's a guy that you got to know about. Receiver Smith has made a bunch of plays. He's been a little bit banged up. We assume that we'll see him. He's made a bunch of plays down the field. And then the quarterback, obviously some of y'all know really well from being here in state. Played well as a 2-year starter at Marshall, and he can run. He's athletic. Played really well last week, threw the ball accurately, and so we've got to be prepared for him. And on special teams, they've been solid. I think their specialists are very good. Kickoff guy, Really, he's got a strong leg. They've made all their field goals they've attempted, and we won't face a better punter. The punter he's really good at pinning them inside the 10, and he's had multiple 50-plus yard kicks or punts this year and last year. So that's kind of them in a nutshell. With that, I'll take questions.
So do you take anything off of last year's tape against them, or with new coach, is the system's completely different? You just chuck that pretty much? Or?
Yeah, you kind of go back and just look at it from a personnel, just look at matchups. But really schematically, under new staff, all three phases are different. They have new leadership in all three phases. So other than just looking at personnel, that's what – when I'm talking about their Mike linebacker, he played well last year. He played good against us last year, but he's playing at a different speed. So other than that, that's about it.
Taking care of the ball the last couple games.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see from him?
Yeah, like I said, John, I think he's more athletic than people give him credit for. I think he can run, and they pick and choose kind of when they have him run, called run plays. Does a good job scrambling. He's got a super strong arm, and the thing that he's done well the last 2 weeks has been accurate with the football.
You mentioned, coming back through the film, guys that would pop out to you. Were there any of those guys?
Yeah, I think if talking offensively, Tomas Rimac did a really nice job on the offensive line, playing a bunch of snaps versus Towson. Going back, I was pleased with Jalen Anderson. All three of the backup quarterbacks that played felt like it in the game, but going back and watching the film yesterday morning, I was pleased with how they performed. Traylon Davis, did a really nice job being physical in the run game. And that was a big confidence booster for him as well. And then Preston Fox, he went, and that was a great catch at the end there. That was a really impressive catch. Pleased that we got Cortez and Jeremiah extended playing time. Defensively, the guys, Mike Lockhart, we played him a lot. He needed to play. He's played in every game, but we played him extensively in the second half there. I thought he continues to grow, and he's getting in shape. Caden Bowser did a nice job. He's our leading tackler in the game. He's performed well in practice. So that was good. Talked about Riley Collins. And then Jacoby and Lamp. I think they continue to progress, and we'll continue to use those guys moving forward.
Would you talk a little bit about the building an offensive line over the last few years, how you had to experiment and recruit and do things to get to the point that you are now?
Yeah, well, it's really been a kind of a 4-year process. When we got here, we, our first year, 19, Colton was a really good player, and he played the game the right way, really physical. Obviously, he's having a nice career in the NFL, so that checked out. But our numbers were low, and had very few guys that had really played, and so in 20 we came back in the COVID year and really made the decision to go young, and Yates played, and Zach and Gamitter, they all played, and they were really young players, and made a little bit of progress, but still was struggle at times. 21, we added a couple other pieces. Wyatt played him young. Doug transferred over, and we played well at times, but a little bit inconsistent. And I thought that we ran the ball against teams we should have ran against, and we struggled sometimes versus really good defenses. And so, that's what we talked about in the offseason was kind of now we're an older, mature. We've got a bunch of guys that have played a bunch of snaps, and we needed to run the ball versus good people. We proved we could do that in week 1. Now we got to continue. This is this challenge. I think defensively they're ranked in the top 5 in a bunch of different categories, number 1 in third downs. So this is going to be a huge challenge. And so now we feel like, from our first, really our top 4 into our top 7, we think have a chance that are quality Big 12 players. And now it's about building depth, and you see Tomas starting to come on. We like our freshmen that'll redshirt. But we got to continue to build it. So I don't think we're a finished product, even though I'm pleased with how they've played through 3 weeks. We've got to continue to build the depth in that room. That's where we don't have what I would like to have just yet.
Have you or
or will you take any of the time to go over kind of the history of the rivalry? Obviously, you did play Tech last year, but not every key contributor from this year's team was on that team last year, and this is the first trek to Blacksburg.
Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about it. You know, the rivalry is definitely one that's very important to our fan base. The guys that played in the game last year felt that being here in our stadium. It's going to be a great atmosphere down in Blacksburg, without a doubt. You know, it's one of the best places to play in college football. I've never been there. I'm looking forward to going down there and experiencing that for the first time. Several of our coaches have played there, and they've done a good job kind of talking about it. But it's you know, this is the only game on our schedule where we're playing in our regular season where we play for a trophy. So the Black Diamond Trophy, I think that makes it even more special. So on a short week, we don't have as much time as you normally would, but we definitely we talked about it yesterday, and we'll talk about it again today.
Does the Pitt game help you in terms of getting them prepared for that atmosphere?
Yeah, without question. You know, that the Pitt game, you know, I think we've talked about that. They at Pitt, credit to them. I mean, the game, they did an absolutely incredible job from a game management standpoint. You know, music, videos, it was loud. I mean, it was super loud. And I haven't been to Blacksburg. My assumption is it's going to be every bit as loud or louder, you know. But our guys, you know, they've had to perform at least one time, you know, and then we've got several. I mean, we're going to go to Austin. We're going to go, you know, so we've got some loud games coming up. We'll do some things in practice today and tomorrow to prepare for it. But I know it's going to be loud. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, especially on a Thursday night.
What are the issues of a short turnaround? I mean, we can imagine some, but
yeah, you know, it's one of those things. It's on a short week, so everything's hurried. You know, probably for coaches, as much as anything, you like to get in a routine. You're out of routine, but I don't think it's as much a factor this week because they're doing the same thing. You know, they played an FCS opponent on Saturday. We played an FCS opponent. We both played earlier in the day. You know, so I think it's pretty equal as far as I've had to play them before where we were the only team coming off a short week, you know, so that makes it really hard. But it's both equal, and so the midweek game, I think it's good. I think it's I don't know if there's another college game on, and I know the NFL is playing on Prime TV, and but other than that, I think a lot of eyes are going to be on us, and this is another opportunity for us in prime time. You know, we were close, but didn't get it done the first week, and so this is another opportunity for us.
To his point, Saturday was really like your Tuesday in terms of prep. So I'm guessing the analyst had everything ready for you. You had to clean up that Towson game quickly, right, and get right on Virginia Tech, right? Yeah.
So what we do is the analysts work ahead anyway. All right. So they're staying a week ahead. So, you know, we may have had a little sneak ahead on Friday to Virginia Tech too. Yeah, I'm sure they did too. But so we got a pretty good work day in on Friday on them, and then we came in really early on Sunday, and so we had a kind of a light practice yesterday. This will be our work day today, and then we'll treat it like a normal Tuesday, Wednesday will be a normal Thursday, Friday for us.
What will that do for the prep for the following game after the Thursday game? Because now then you have more time.
Yeah, we've had to do it before. It doesn't. We're going to give our guys a couple days off, you know, but then we'll get back on Sunday. So for the players, won't be much different.
You preach to the players, get off your feet, get the rest. I mean, they're 18. Sometimes they don't listen, but
yeah, you talk about it. It's kind of like with your own kids, Greg, you know, like, you know, hopefully they take something out of it, right? You know, like, so, you know, we talked about it really after the game. You know, that was before we even sang the fight song. We talked about, hey, because really, you know, talk about it from a physical well-being standpoint, you know, and we talked about the hydration piece and making sure you're eating, make sure you're resting, to prepare for Monday today, because we knew that would be our work day. And so, you know, I hope we did. You know, I'll know more today. You know, and Tony asked me tomorrow on the radio show, I'll be able to tell you. But we're hopeful. I thought the guys were in good spirits yesterday. They ran around. We ran them yesterday. I don't think we had anybody dehydrated yesterday, so that's a positive. So, we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready on Thursday night.
Health-wise, Neil?
Yeah, so Austin Cave played a little bit in the game. Jordan White played. I think they'll be both available. Aubrey Burks will be back this week. Jalen Thornton, we're going to practice today, so we're hopeful. No more after he practices today. Charles will be out. Anybody else? I think that's it.
Charles is long-term, any idea?
It's too early. He had surgery last week, and it's kind of a unique surgery. We're hopeful. He's hopeful that he'll be back, but it's not a normal injury. It's a really unique injury. So there's not necessarily textbook rehab, and a lot of it goes on how he feels. And but we're hopeful, and like I said, he's hopeful to be back. It'll be a couple of weeks from now, though.
Any information on King, the kid that played well in the Boston College game?
Yeah.
Kind of plan for him, I guess.
Yeah, he didn't play. He's explosive. They use him in the kickoff return game. He's explosive there. He's explosive at running back. I know he didn't play last week. I don't know.
Neil, in terms of recovery, you walked us through last summer, all the stuff downstairs. How much do you guys use that? How much does it help with, situations like this where you get a quick turnaround?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. And so what we do is when we can make it mandatory, we do, depending on where we're at from an hour standpoint during the week. But we've got all those down there. I know a bunch of guys were in the float tank yesterday and today. That really helps rejuvenate you. I've used it too. After a short week, I may have to go down there myself. But yeah, that stuff definitely helps. Definitely helps. We had mandatory recovery yesterday. They had a lift and recovery today, and then we'll do the same thing on Wednesday before we leave on the flight. So we're putting a lot of use into it. And to the guys' credit, most of them do it every week anyway.
You mentioned their most improved player from last year. Who do you think is your most improved player?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me put a little thought into that, Bob. I think Doug Nestor is playing at a high level right now, and he did at times last year, but he's been more consistent with his play. Wyatt Milam, from an experience standpoint, is much better offensively. Justin Johnson made some strides. Going over to defense, but those I would say Doug, right off the top of my head, thinking about it offensively. Going to defense, Jordan Jefferson, and it really kind of started at the end of last year. He's playing well at that interior spot, and then in the secondary, all those guys, they're going to get better the more they play. But Aubrey Burks, for a guy that really only played part of the year last year on special teams, he's had moments of really good football for us.
Speaking of Nestor, do you have to talk to him a little bit, or just going back there and the whole deal, or just let him go?
Not as much. He's mature, man. He really is. He's mature, and I think last year we did. But it was a little bit different setup because those are the coaches that recruited him, and so not so much now. None of those guys that were there when he was there, and now he's got some friends on the team, I'm sure. But it's not last year. Coach Moore and myself, we did. This year, not as much.
In terms of Doug, though, are you leaning on him in any way? Going back to my earlier question about the rivalry, the connection, even the atmosphere there, and all of that.
Yeah, he'll tell the guys about playing in Blacksburg, and he'll definitely. I'm going to ask him to kind of talk about their entrance to the stadium and things like that. But as far as anything, you'd have to ask him. I don't think there's any real strong negative feelings or anything about that. I think it's more about the decision just to come home.
Notice they started the game in two tights, but that seems to be what you're facing a lot these days. I mean, you've had a lot of experience with that from Iowa State honestly, that's not even really a big deal anymore, right?
Well, they do a bunch of good things, man. Tyler, you can tell some of his influences, right? Being at Penn State, you can see some of the RPO stuff and some of the power read things that they did when Joe Moorhead was there. You can see some of the RPO things that they did when Kirk was there, and then you can see some of the stuff that Rudolph at Wisconsin, a lot of their run game, you see it. So they're doing a really nice job of kind of mixing it up, and they've got a bunch of big bodies. They probably don't have the depth on the O-line that they want, but that first group has played, and you see them getting better, and they've played well. And they do a good job because they can run so many tight ends at you that they have a really big edge. And then I think they do a good job of motioning and doing some things pre-snap that make it hard on you as well.
The first week is probably a surprising outcome when you look at the schedule. What have you noticed that has changed in them in the subsequent weeks?
Yeah, I think it's just about turnovers that first week. If you look at the statistics of the game, it's kind of like if you were looking at our box score against Pitt, you would think, well, they won the game, right? Well, we had 2 turnovers and they scored 14 points off of it. You all would know better. Did they have 4, I think, something like that, 4, maybe more, versus ODU in week 1. They outgained them. So I think it was more about turnovers. Defensively, they played really well. They gave up a couple of deep passes, on 50-50 balls, but they shut down the run. And so, but they played, I don't think they necessarily played bad football outside the turnovers, and then they played really well at home. I think that's been something that they've done traditionally, there as a program, played well at home. And I thought against Boston College, that was one of the more physical and highest level strains that I've seen on tape. Credit to Coach Pry and that staff, because those kids flew around in that game versus Boston College, and they had great energy and man, they played really, really hard.
You were there as a group of 5 coach and program when you get a shot at a Power 5 like ODU did. I mean, you probably never even had one at home. So what's the mentality for programs like that when they get that opportunity?
Yeah, as a head coach, we did, and we got Oklahoma State to come there when I think I was a position coach then at Troy. It's something I was trying to explain to our guys because everybody that's on a Group of 5 roster, they think that they got looked over. They should be on a Power 5 roster. So we always did at Troy to get up for those type of games. We would tell them, hey, and it's the truth, an NFL scout comes in here, the first game they want to see you is when we played Nebraska or when we played Troy or when we played LSU. Those are the first games they want to see, And then what happens is if you get them at home, and again, we were never fortunate enough to have one at home, but if you get them at home, then you're able to sell out, and the people are right on top of you, and it's intense. And so anything can happen when you put that kind of level of energy into it. And so, you're going to get those, you're going to get their best shot, so that's why, especially those teams that go play in those Group of 5 stadiums against those really good programs, for them to come out and win. Everybody goes, North Carolina goes down and beats App, and ends up going into overtime. Everybody's like, man, have you ever gone and played in App? That's a pretty tough place to go play. You know what I mean? And so if you win, that's pretty good. And so, but yeah, like ODU was rocking and rolling that night. I watched it on TV, and it was loud, and I watched it on Coach Copy, on Friday and yesterday and today, and that group was fired up, and that was a tough place to play.
As a coach, how do you you played 3 games and you've had 2 interceptions, return for a touchdown, and a kickoff. How do you handle that?
Well, yeah. Well, the one versus Kansas, that I don't know. I guess it was technically returned for a touchdown, but that was one of those that it was kind of ball game, anyway. Let's start with the kick. The kickoff is the most frustrating thing for me. All right, because We did not do what we were coached to do as far as being on our landmarks, and so that's an issue. All right, and then we missed multiple tackles on the return, which is an issue. All right, so that's really kind of infuriating for me. The one versus Pitt is, I don't know if fluke play is the right word, you know what I mean? Because the kid caught the ball after it hit his helmet, but I can still see that like in slow motion, Bob. I can see it like right in front. I mean, I can see it right now. So that was a little bit of a fluke play, and then in the Kansas one, we didn't run a great route and we missed the ball inside, you know, and probably by about a foot. But it's a game of inches, and so that matters. But I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it because it's in the past, you know. Like, I think we talked about this the other day. Somebody said, yeah, you're 2 plays away. You know, if you don't have the interception versus Pitt and you don't get the late hit on the quarterback versus Kansas, yeah, you're sitting here 3-0. I'm like, yeah, you know, but there's a lot of other, you know, things that happen too. And so, but we don't spend a ton of time. You know, we're spending a lot of time yesterday and today fixing that kickoff. You know, we spent a lot of time catching balls. You know, we've caught the ball better the last 2 weeks. But I'm not sitting there talking to our team a whole lot about those 2 interceptions.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank y'all.
So JT, just start season as a whole. Offensively, anything that maybe you didn't expect when you arrived that you guys are doing better, worse? What are you thinking?
I typically don't come in with too much for expectations. I've been varied the last 2 weeks. I think Kansas is a good team, and I think Towson had good football players. I really don't care what people say about them. 1 punt, 1 turnover in the last 8 quarters, to me is very efficient, very good football. I think we've played relatively clean. I think we can be a lot cleaner. But in general, I think we have great talent offensively. I think each week we execute better and better. You know, we just keep going on this pace. I think we'll be a really good offense.
You mentioned the freedom aspect, one of the things that you liked about Graham's system. I asked him about it before you come in here. He gives you freedom. How do you feel you've been, you know, seeing the plays he's calling or offering suggestions on plays that you want to run, or him giving you a block of plays and you picking the right ones, or run or a pass? How do you feel you've been doing there?
Yeah, I think we have great communication. A lot of times, it's very rare that it's like you'll have a situation with the offense where it's like you have full freedom to do everything, and it's not something you want to do. You spend too much time up there trying to think and figure things out, right? So a lot of it is, you know, a certain look we check to this, or, you know, a certain matchup we give them this, you know, things like that. So far I've done a really good job of being, you know, correct in pre-snap assessment and making the right decision. But, you know, in general, it's that kind of relationship, that kind of system.
You give him suggestions, say, hey, let's do this?
Yeah, there are things I like that I'll talk to him about, and we'll put them in, and then we'll run them in practice, and we'll you know, we'll see if we want to keep it.
Okay.
How do you communicate? You know, talk about communicating with your wide receivers and that. How do you do that? How, you know, during the game while it's going on?
There's not as much that goes on during the game. There's a lot that goes on during the week. Like a specific example from last week, when I watched Red Zone on Thursday, and there's, you know, there are a few ways that cornerbacks play Red Zone man-to-man coverage, especially from like the 5-yard line in. Towson was a true press inside leverage team. So I talked to KP and Bryce on Thursday and told them this week fades are not going to be thrown over the top. They're going to be quick back shoulder. Don't waste time on a release. Go straight for the back pylon. It's going to be a quick back shoulder, and that's what you saw in the first touchdown to KP. So a lot of that goes on during the week before the game. Then if there's anything small during the game that goes on that I need to talk to them about, you know, you just tell them. But for the most part, all that's done in the preparation phase.
Fortunate and important is it that you have in you and Bryce 2 guys that not only attack the game really hard, but intelligent enough to know what you want and how to go about getting it.
You asked that again? I didn't really hear you.
Attacking the game, 2 intelligent guys at wide receiver and quarterback who know what they want, know what they should be in, know how to get there. How important is that?
Oh, it's a huge help. I've had that everywhere I've been, especially with like Amon Ross St. Brown, who's now killing in Detroit. Which Bryce's mental reminds me a little bit of Amon. Me and Amon were the same exact ways, where we saw the game the same and understood it really well. I think I had that with George and Pittman. Really, I've had that with everyone, but Bryce specifically reminds me a lot of Amon in the way that one, he approaches during preparation, but two, in like I can tell Bryce something in between a play, and we'll run it the next play, and then he'll get it, and it'll click instantly.
The run game, how important has it been for what you guys are doing?
Run game's always important. Really controlling the line of scrimmage in general frees up the entire rest of the offense. If you don't control the line of scrimmage, you're fighting an uphill battle for 4 quarters, trying to be able to execute consistently in the pass game if you can't control the line of scrimmage enough to create 2nd and 6 or less.
Graham mentioned your talking with Zach about protections, working the constant. Walk me through that, just simple lay terms. What types of things are you talking about when you're trying to get it straight?
So Zach always makes the first ID, which is that's pretty much how it is everywhere nowadays in football. Is centers are smart enough. Zach's one of them that's very smart. That can always make that always makes the first ID. And then he asked me a lot of questions because I change protections, and I have full control over it. So Zach asked me a lot when we're talking about it. A lot of it is him asking me what I see and why I change it to get us in the right protection. The basis of protection for me is making sure we have my 5 linemen accounted for. The 5 that I want them to block is the simplest way you could explain protection. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. A lot of that is determined by defense, but that is essentially what quarterback controlled protection is.
You got hit a couple times from the edge on passes in the Townsend game. Was that just them bringing a late stunt, a late pressure?
No, that was cover 0, you get hit.
Okay.
Is the gist of it. Like if you bring 0, they have 1 more than you have to block. So no matter what, you got to beat them with the ball or you're going to get hit. Which
so
is
you got to hang on to it long enough to make the play.
It's part. Yeah, it's just part of the game. Like if they're going to bring, and I said the same thing about Pitt, which wasn't 0, but it was 6-man pressure is 6 one-on-one blocks, which is just it's really hard to do. Same thing in 0, and a couple of those were on run plays, so it's like those guys aren't accounted, like they're not pass protecting in general. RPOs.
Another one here. Are you mindful that on a play you're going to take a hit? Do you try to contort your body so you don't take a direct blow?
Not really. I don't because something you just take it like helmet, pads, all that. Like especially with adrenaline too. Something you just got to do it. Like there's I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing more to it than you got to make the throw and take a hit. It's just part of the position.
Gotcha.
Evaluate the young quarterbacks. What'd you see out of there? They finally all got game performance.
All looked really good. All were the best thing about it was their eyes, and where they were mentally. They were in the right spot every time, and that's the most important part in general. Like accuracy you can develop over time. I think a sense for the pocket you develop over time. There's a lot of things that take a little longer to develop, but in terms of executing the offense, being in the right spot with your eyes is entirely controllable and just on them to prepare, and they did a good job of it, and they were in the right spot. Every single one of them, I think, on every single play was in the right spot doing the right thing.
Nico's throw to the back of the end zone helps Zid to put that ball in that spot and make it to where only Preston can come down with that pass.
It's something you'll see him do a lot. He's very talented, has a lot of arm talent. A very good kid, and it's like for him, I don't think he would say that's too tough. I think that's a routine throw for him. It looks tough for when you're watching it because it's a tough throw to make and it's elite placement. But I think he would tell you just threw a double move.
JT, when you study Virginia Tech, what are some of the things that jump out at you with their defense?
Their fast flow, aggressive, oriented defense. I think a lot of what they want to do is put you in 3rd and long, and they do a lot of good things on 3rd and long. They do a lot of good things, normal down and distance, rundowns in 2nd and long that is predicated around pushing you to 3rd and 8 plus. From what I've seen, they've been very good on third down, and I think the best way for a defense to be good on third down is to put you in third and long, and the best way for an offense to be good on third down is to stay out of third and long, right? Like if we go, I think the national average on 3rd and 8+, at least 2 years ago, was 18%. So if 18%, like that's 1 out of 5 on 3rd and long. That's it's tough living, no matter who you are or how good your team is. If you're playing 3rd and long, you're not going to be very successful on third down. I think that's a lot of what they do. They do a good job of it. They put you behind the chains, and then they make it hard to convert.
JT, you watch Red Zone on Thursday, right?
Yes.
So you have like a schedule.
Yes.
The week's compact this week. Do you prioritize things? Do you cut things out?
I just have to add 2 days together 2 times. So Sunday, my basic week is Sunday is their last 3 games against similar offenses, find out their defensive identity, coverage ID, how I'm going to process coverage and find it pre-play and every play, and then position technique, so how each position group is taught and specific things they do that I care about and am going to know in game. Monday is rundowns, which is 1st and 10, 2nd and 6 or less, top 3 coverages, pressure percent, things like that. Tuesday is the same thing, but for 2nd and long, which is 2nd and 7+. Wednesday is 3rd down, separated by medium, long, extra long, top 3 coverages, pressure percentage. And then Thursday is red zone. Friday I repeat Sunday and make sure I'm in the right spot and try and see if I was correct on Sunday, and then kind of have that final, like I'm ready to go. So I just got to combine Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then I got Thursday, Friday. It's off in the way that I'm saying it because I'm thinking about it from a regular week, but I basically just have to combine 2 of those days 2 times.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, JT.
Gotcha, guys.
Okay, Dante, so you're our historian since you're the link. First of all, how nice was it to play Tech last year, for you, considering the history? And have you talked to your dad about playing in Lane Stadium at all?
No, I haven't talked to him about it yet. It really, last year's game was just very electric. It was my first time playing them, so I was just excited and nervous at the same time. This year, I'm kind of, just more laid back when it comes to like going to the games. I feel more confident than I've ever been, so I kind of just go in there just like with a clear mind. It's gonna be a big game. It's gonna be rocking. So it's loud stadium, one of the loudest, in the country. So I'm just excited to play there. Yeah.
For a player, how do you get yourself ready for a short week? This is condensed. Everything's a lot quicker.
It's really just I try to take care of my body. Like right after this, I'm probably hit the cold tub, light bed, cryo, stuff like that to get my body back to I'll say a normal, kind of like it's a normal game week. And I'm about to go watch film a lot on them, and it is a certain week, so that extra day of not being able to do extra thing, extra film or extra recovery, I try to build it in all the next couple of days. So it's really just going there and just try to get my body back, honestly. So.
Towson, I don't know how many snaps you had, but it could have been very many.
I think it was 15.
You had 15 snaps. Recovery for 15 snaps.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but just really I try to keep up with my body, daily. So. Yeah.
You have to be pretty pleased with the way the changes you wanted to make coming into the season have incorporated into your game. Is that fair to say? Have they improved what you're doing out there?
Yeah, I feel like this year, for me, this whole year was just really I'm just not trying to do too much. I just try to just play in between the scheme and just the way I play. I'm not trying to do too much because, I love seeing other guys make plays probably more than I do. I enjoy it. So if the play's not there, I'm not really worried about it. I try to trust it that I'm going to make the play when the opportunity is brought to me. So, I just try to go out there and just do my job and have fun.
It be a lot of fun to run the quarterback down from behind like you did.
Yeah, it was. At first I didn't think I was gonna get him, but then I just laid out, and I'm happy I did get him. So.
You mentioned atmosphere and obviously what to expect Thursday. Just atmospheres in general. What's it do for you? Does it create nerves, excitement, and on the road different than at home?
I feel like it's definitely more exciting. You know, I like large crowds. I like the energy. I like the noise, especially when it's away. I want to be able to go in there and just just play how I play, and just I want to quiet the crowd. I want to do all that. So I just try to I'm excited to play. Really, I take it day by day, and I'm trying to enjoy it as much as possible. And I tell them, I watched a couple games on YouTube just to see how the atmosphere could be, just see how it is. Just watching film and stuff like that. So I am excited to go in there. It's gonna be loud, and I love it. So.
What you seeing from Virginia Tech on Thursday? Going to be, I guess, closer to what you saw from Pitt in terms of how they want to establish the run, the style of play, two tight ends, things like that.
Yeah, definitely a lot of runs. It's mostly his run. My mindset. I mean, I don't want to say my whole mindset, but the goal is to stop the run. Very heavy road team, 12 personnel. So I was ready to go.
They talk about home field advantage. What is home field advantage really? Is it more the crowd and that, or is it more being comfortable with your routine, knowing, feeling at home?
Really, I feel like this game's gonna be a lot of West Virginia fans there too. So I feel like we're sure we'll get that Mountaineer, feel and energy. But at the same time, home field advantage. I feel like it's just the area, like the where it's at. I don't think it's really based off of, like the crowd, because I feel like we travel well with games like this. So I'm excited to see the energy that's brought.
How do you think you guys handled the atmosphere at Pitt?
I feel like very well. Actually, like knowing how big the game was and understanding the energy going into the game, how it's going to be. So I feel like we handled it very well.
You think that'll help the younger guys?
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
You mentioned loving the atmosphere. Preparing for the atmosphere is part of it too. Practice, you're probably making the music a little bit louder, doing those types of things. You mentioned loving it in the game. Do you like it in practice too? Does it raise the energy of everybody ahead of the contest?
Really is. I don't think there's really any noise in practice that can imitate what's going to happen at Virginia Tech this Thursday. So it's really the volume of the crowd don't really matter in the game, because you're so focused on your job and your technique. So like there's a lot of times where I don't even hear the crowd. I'm so just locked into what I'm doing the field. But I feel like this game is knowing our assignment, how to line up, and understanding the noise can affect how we play.
How about the off the field stuff? I know when you go into a rivalry game, particularly in their place, you're going to get the fans are going to be on you. And I'm sure you got a lot of that at the Pitt game, probably at the end. You encountered some of that. How do you handle that as a player?
It's really just move on. I don't want to worry about it too much, because if I worry about it too much, it's going to affect me. So I kind of just I try to keep it the negative energy away, and it's all positive. So.
Good with Dante?
Appreciate it.